As the early box office numbers for Rise of Skywalker come in, one thing is abundantly clear. They have lost the Chinese audience. I think that they lost it a long time ago as far as Disney Star Wars is concerned. And the new numbers that are coming in, they're under $200 million for opening. 160 to 190. Now, when we talk about expectation and we talk about failure, I wonder how Disney feels about this. And I wonder if they realize that all of this traces back to Episode 8. Way to go with that. Way to go indeed. No wonder Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy are talking about going to TV shows because they see failure on the horizon, and the people they're trying to blame, yeah, it's not the fans' fault at all. So hey there. So today I want to return to that wonderful world of box office numbers to talk about this epic trash fire and how exactly it's faring. See, when people have been discussing the numbers out there, they've been discussing the domestic box office for this, and they've been breaking it down into summary, telling you how that ranks and how it fares. Oh, look at that. As a preview, look at how well that ranks. Isn't that great? The thing that they've been ignoring is the domestic box office versus the international box office and where those numbers are coming from. I mean, when you have China pop in and China isn't even in the top 3, you're going to have a problem, and you definitely have a problem long term. Now, this is an issue that has been seeded over time. You and I are going to talk about that in just a second. But before we do, if you like this kind of content, you want to help an umbrella out, consider supporting the channel by subscribing, by sharing videos, and by interacting with videos. That means liking, commenting. You just say +1, interaction. Man, way to go, China. Whatever you want to there, and thank you for sure. So when you look at these numbers too, these early numbers, I mean, you see exactly where things are setting. And you notice when you get to China, wow, these numbers are really bad. In fact, if you go out and you look at the Rise of Skywalker numbers and what's being reported by Vanity right now, you see $2.2 million in the region by 8 p.m. local time Friday. And this is an estimated earnings of $18 million by the time the theatrical run concludes. There are 2 Chinese movies that are doing better than Rise of Skywalker right now there. So when you're talking about what's supposed to be the biggest market in just a few years, you know, with the projections of the U.S. being dethroned there, oh yeah, you're talking about losing a major market commodity. Now, if that's what it looks like abroad, how does the Disney machine keep working? I mean, you have to have the people at home that are going out and buying products, but how does that work internationally? How do you convince people to go and to, say, travel to theme parks to pick up merchandising and on? How exactly do you do that when people don't even want to show up for your items? Now, looking at the numbers that have come in for this franchise, you notice a significant drop after Force Awakens. Why is that? Because Chinese audiences don't like Mary Sue's. I mean, they really do not like that, especially when it comes to what they consider unattractive Mary Sue's. So if you look at the numbers and you look at how this has fallen off for the major movies, for Force Awakens, you go from 124 million, Last Jedi, 42 million, and now with Episode 9, you have $18 million projected. Not only that, but you're looking at underperformance as far as any audience is concerned, with projections now saying this movie is going to debut at $160 to $190 million. That is well under what was being reported before. You know, we were hearing about $200 to $260 million. Now, yeah, we knew it wouldn't open under Force Awakens or above Force Awakens, so that 260 was off the table. Man, 220 sounded far-fetched when it came to it even competing with Last Jedi, but coming in under $200 million and then coming in at 160, that is an absolute nightmare. You also have Rotten Tomatoes setting at one of the worst scores ever. So when you go forward and you talk about future earnings, you have to wonder, can these earnings here, can they actually manage? See, we won't get an actual report for it until things come up. I will continue reporting on that as it comes up. But when you're looking at these numbers, again, you have really no idea how well this will do for 3 days. But we already know just by these numbers internationally and by earnings that have happened before that China is off the board. And when China's off the board, you already have problems. And it doesn't look like other territories are going to pick up the slack like they have before. That's another thing that this article points out too. I mean, if you look at the last movies that have come out, you've had these movies do well despite the fact, or in spite of, China not showing up. When you have all of the other movies except Solo gross $1 billion worldwide, yeah, you may actually do that too. But you have to ask yourself something. What does Disney consider failure? And I want to leave you with that. See, when you go out and you look at Star Wars, you can tell that they're trying to distance themselves from this trilogy, and especially from the last movie, but they'll try to do that with this too. They already have been doing that. They've been cutting ties. They focused on a new product. They launched it right before this movie came out. Yeah, it tells you quite a bit. So what do they consider failure? Well, they want to make money, in merchandising. They want to put butts in beds, not just butts in seats. They want you to go to theme parks. This won't do it. So when you look at long-term success, yeah, no wonder they're cutting bait and running. I mean, it really makes sense. Who's going to get blamed for this? Well, underneath it, they're going to say fans, but really, Kathleen Kennedy will finally end up paying for it. Yep, Kathleen Kennedy, there is no way that she stays in here. She is all but fired. We've known that for a while, but this just confirms it. And no more J.J. Abrams, thank God, when it comes to this stuff, too. No more lens flare. That movie was awful, by the way. I will talk about more of that as we go forward. But yeah, this gives you a really good idea. But anyway, you tell me what you think about this. Ending briefly, I do want to say thank you for showing up. Thank you for participating. You make this stuff possible. They forgot that. They really, really forgot that. And woe be it unto them. Anybody that thinks like Disney has, they deserve the failure that they went out and they made. So, hey, what great times. What great times indeed. But you make this stuff possible. Never let them underestimate that. So if you want to help out with interactions, great. But you just showing up matters, and I want to thank you for it. So thank you. We'll do this again soon.